maybe get into a general discussion of our 2025 watches, and then we can pick our favorites. We'll see where it takes us.
Okay. Look, I got all my tabs open. We got a lot to discuss.
Welcome back to the Shadows. On this very special Etch Cast, I'm joined by Morgan Galen King.
Hello, everybody.
And special guest, writer and film enthusiast Joe Dwyer of the Left Hand Path Substack.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here.
So we are going to do something we haven't done before on the Etch Cast today, which is discuss really, well, I guess we have done this, but specifically very, very weird movies. So, Joe, first, let's just talk about how we know each other and how we watch movies together, Joe. So we've known each other for what, a long time? 15 years? More than 15?
Yeah. I feel like we really got to know each other around 2009, because that's when you were making The Bleeding House, right?
Uh-huh.
But I did know you, of course, before then, because I'm an old friend of Vicky's, who is your wife, for those who do not know. And then when you moved to Providence in, what was that, 2010 or 2011?
Somewhere in there. One of those two. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It just kind of naturally occurred that, or to make it dramatic, there was that hurricane, right?
Yep.
Soon after you moved into your home, and I was living down in the valleys of the West Side that could be flooded. But so I hung out and we watched a bunch of movies that night.
Yep.
And that seems to just have been the beginning of our movie watching habits.
Yeah. So over the years, Joe and I, and Morgan too, I think share an interest in, broadly, we can just say film, but we really mean like all the strange niches and subgenres, and we've all acquired weird and weirdo tastes and are interested in watching, stuff that's pretty far off the beaten path. So a lot of what we're going to discuss today is that some of it slightly more towards the mainstream, but a lot of this is really in the weeds. So over the years, our watching habits, Joe and I, have sort of evolved. And at this point, we have this tradition that's been running for, 4 years now? 4 or 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
where, on a Saturday, and a number of times a year, I think we've done it by my math 14 times this year, Joe comes over, or I go to Joe's place. We do a double feature of weird things. This podcast is not sponsored by Vinegar Syndrome. However, it was sort of spurred by us getting a subscription to Vinegar Syndrome's Blu-ray releases. So we'll get a box every month that's like Vinegar Syndrome releases. So often double feature is pulled from those. I will say, looking at what we watched this year, there aren't a lot of Vinegar Syndrome titles on this list. I don't think it's a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised that I don't think I chose one of the VS titles to talk about. Just because I've just been buying a lot of discs from other companies too this year.
Yeah.
Because there's so much out there to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done here is I put together a Letterboxd list that has everything on it that we've watched, with one notable exception, which we will talk about because it is one of the films that I picked as my favorite, and we can explain why it's not on my list, but why it could appear on Joe's Letterboxd list. It's a whole thing. So if you're listening to this and you want to look at the Letterboxd link, you can click it. Hopefully we'll put it in the show notes, and then people can just sort of look at everything that we're talking about. And just to bring Morgan into this, Morgan doesn't live here, but when he comes to visit, often he has participated in a Dwyer night, a Dwyer double feature situation.
That's true. At least twice on visits. I think last time I was there, it was a couple of years ago, and we did Gerard Depardieu with a monkey movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but it was weird.
It's called Bye Bye Monkey.
Yeah.
But then the French title was even better, and it was all like, it translated into like, the trials and tribulations of masculinity. It was like much heavier than Bye Bye Monkey. But I'm glad you mentioned that one because Depardieu will come back into this conversation, I'm sure.
I was going to say I have the suspicion that there will be Depardieu talk, and maybe a couple of other names that have already appeared on the Etch Cast a few times. I've got a side recommendation in my list. The other thing I think, Morgan, that we watched with Joe was Shamyanka, the Zalowski film. I believe that was also a Dwyer watch, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember if you were here for that.
I missed the first like 20 minutes. I think I was finishing. We were editing The Spine of Night, maybe.
Must have been, yeah.
We were and I think I was upstairs back when you had the office on the other side of the floor.
Yeah.
And and I was like, you guys go ahead and start. I had like 15 minutes. So I've never seen the first 15 minutes of that movie, but we did because we were actively editing it and we hadn't recorded the voiceover for the one, like the silhouette chapter, the Road of Straw in the middle of the film. And we were watching that. And that's the movie where they say all gods are gods of death. And we're like, that's the best line ever. And we're like, we're stealing that and putting it in the script. It's like while we were editing the film.
Stole the shit out of it and then it appeared in Spine of Night.
Yeah. And I will see it all the time on our Letterboxd reviews. People are like, best line in the movie. And I'm like, it sure was.
Has anyone ever called you out on that, saying it's from Shamyanka?
Not yet. I don't know that the target audience overlaps that much outside of the three of us.
Very enthusiastic, weird film goers. Yeah. Strange film goers.
Yeah. Which is just by way, if you're looking for writing advice, watch really, really weird movies. And sometimes you'll hear a line of dialogue that you can either just take fully, but you should always credit, or might spur a thought. So how do we want to get into this? Do we want to? So what we've done, Joe and I have both picked our top 3 from the year. But I was thinking I might just, real quick, just list all the movies that we watched so that everybody has the names, can hear the names of the movies. I have a suspicion that nobody listening to this will have seen the vast majority of these movies, but that's okay because we're gonna actually. There's a couple on here. I'll just read. This is in no particular order. This is the order that Letterboxd put them in. So we have The Seventh Curse, which is a Hong Kong made action supernatural hybrid from the mid 80s. We have Fixin, made by Russ Meyer. You're going to hear that name a lot on this list. Lieutenant Jangles, which is a relatively recent sort of parody cop movie that we watched. I don't think you didn't pick Lieutenant Jangles, did you?
No, I did not.
so we picked that came. It must have been a Vinegar Syndrome release. I don't even know why.
It was a partner. It was a partner label one, and so when I look through every a couple times a year, I'll buy a stack of partner label discs, and I could not resist that title.
Yeah. So the reason Joe can't resist that title, Lieutenant Jangles, is because. Why don't you explain why Lieutenant Jangles is a name that means something to you?
Sure. Well, it was 10 years ago now, or a little bit more than 10 years ago, that I made a short film called Good Evening, Officer Bracelets, which was about this corrupt cop. And it was when I was in graduate school and kind of, exploring giallo aesthetics and gender dynamics and all kinds of things like that. And I don't know, to this day, I'm not fully satisfied with how Officer Bracelets turned out, but it's still a very significant part of my life, So I just love that people somewhere else in the world thought it would be a good idea to make a cop movie with a ridiculous
Lieutenant Jangles. But doesn't the idea for Officer Bracelets, come also from Cuffs, the Christian Slater film? Yeah, it does.
The naming convention did come from George Cuffs, who was Christian Slater in the movie Cuffs from the early 90s. So.
Okay, I'm going to continue down the list. Then we have Super Vixen, also by Russ Meyer, of course. David Lynch's Dune, which I suspect is one that people have seen. The Whoopi Goldberg star Burglar from the mid 80s. Doom Generation by Greg Araki. The Carpenter. I can't remember who directed The Carpenter. David Wellington, but it has Cole Wingshauser in it. You must have watched that after he passed away. Morgan, I know you've seen that one. I don't know if we'll wait. That might be on one of our top 3 lists, so we'll hold on. We'll hold on Carpenter. The next one. This is my favorite title of the year, I think. AAA masseuse, good looking, offers her services, which is
how can you not just put that disc in and watch it?
I mean, there are some absurd giallo naming. I guess we'll call them conventions again, but like that's a particularly ridiculous one because it's not even. A lot of times they're sort of poetic, like 4 Flies on Grey Velvet, or like The House That's Dripped Blood, or whatever. Is that a giallo? I'm not even sure if it is, but
it is. But the funny thing about that is, when I saw that on the list, I can't even really remember like what it's about by now. And
AAA masseuse, good looking officers. I mean, you know what it's about. It says in the title,
right? But I can't no visuals are distinctive of that one from any other sort of giallo of that kind. So it's hard for me to even, remember what it is.
Have you seen that one?
No, I've not even heard of it. Is the title like a it looks like from the poster, is it like a newspaper listing, like a single white female sort of thing? Yes. Like the listing is for.
Yeah. And then I don't remember much about it either, to be honest. And then other than it was like sort of disappointing, as many giallo ultimately are. Okay, then we have Dr. Caligari, not the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but Dr. Caligari made by Edward Sayadin. It's like a completely
Stephen Sayadian. Yeah, that's what
Stephen Sayadian. Sorry, I don't keep calling him Edward in my head, and that's completely incorrect. Stephen Sayadian. It's a kind of, I don't even know, Joe. Like, what would you? It's a reimagining of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in a kind of
in a weird like 80s, I don't know, porn informed but not pornographic kind of world that, I don't know. I can only imagine them making that in the 80s and thinking that was sort of like the height of art film or something, but maybe we'll talk about it further.
Yeah. Then we have Choice of Arms, which is a French film starring Gerard Depardieu and Catherine Deneuve, which I also, like you were saying about AAA masseuse, I remember very little about this movie.
I remember it was disappointing because I always expect Depardieu to be torrential in his performances, and seldom does he deliver.
So let's pause the list for a second and just let's just put a little circle around that Depardieu in that specific term. So years ago, we saw on the back of a box, Gerard Depardieu got like a pull quote that Depardieu's performance in this particular movie, I can't remember what movie it was torrential.
And I think
feral, torrential and feral. I forgot about the feral part of it. But since then, this particular adjective, torrential, a torrential performance has been a little bit of a obsession. So we're always on the lookout for any torrential performance, but specifically a Depardieu torrential performance. And I got to say, despite like that the performance in the movie was not torrential. Depardieu was not torrential in that film whatsoever. He definitely wasn't torrential at Choice of Arms, or we would remember.
Can you point to his most torrential performance? Is this a gradient?
That's the thing. There are very few that I've seen that
it would probably be late career, right? With Welcome to New York. Well, he was very feral in Welcome to New York.
I would describe Welcome to New York as feral. I love that. I don't know that I would call it torrential.
But then, because even like Maitresse, which is an early one with him, I really like. He's not necessarily torrential in that either. He kind of is reserved. In a few scenes, he goes for it, but not. It's not a torrent of emotion,
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, it's a white whale of the thing that we're all searching for, the ultimate torrential Depardieu performance.
I mean, a massive filmography. You've got a lot, I'm sure, still to go.
There's a long ways to go, certainly. Then we have Sierra Noir, which is also French, stars Patrick Dewar. I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about this one again, so I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to put a pin in that one. The Greasy Strangler, which is just great. I highly recommend that. Morgan, have you seen Greasy Strangler?
Weirdly enough, I haven't. It's been on my watch list since it came out.
Yep.
And I keep, it's been recommended to me 100 times, and I somehow just haven't got around to it. I think it's just that the name is gross, and I'm always like, it's just not the night. It's not the night for that.
I avoided it. It was the same thing. It was on my list, but I was kind of avoiding it because I was like, I don't know if I want to subject myself to that for years. And then one night Joe was like, we're watching Greasy Strangler tonight.
We just need to, we've been talking about it for so long.
But you already seen it, Joe, right?
I had. And I think Vicky was there that night and she was like, this is a lot weirder than I was expecting it to be. And I feel like she doesn't say things like that often. She usually.
No, she's got a very high tolerance.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, maybe we'll talk further about that one down the line too.
Okay. Then we have a little movie called Going Places. Going Places stars Depardieu and Dwyer. It's a movie that we watched after Sierra Noir because we kind of got obsessed with Patrick Dwyer. I'm going to put a pin in this one too because I bet it'll come back up later. A very notable watch experience, Going Places. So we'll come back to that one. All right. Then we have Up! Exclamation point. Actually, let me redo that. I love to whenever a movie has an exclamation point in its title, I really like to overemphasize it. So let's try that again. Up! By Russ Meyer. Then we have another great title, and actually maybe a better title than AAA Masseuse Good Looking Officer Services. This one is called Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wastelands. It's a Japanese film. What's the year on that? Is it 60s or 70s?
Late 60s, maybe 68, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I really quite liked it. I don't think it's not on my top 3 list. I don't know if we're going to come back to that one. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about it, Joe.
It kind of reminded me of that period that Seijun Suzuki did too. It was kind of similar to Branded to Kill, and it was very with that kind of title. You think it might be kind of bombastic and wild, but it was pretty dour and down in the gutters, sort of noir, which I was into. So
yeah, have you seen that one, Morgan? I bet you would like it.
No, but I'm adding it to my watch list now.
Yeah. Okay, then we have another Russ Meyer, Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens, which is good. I think we'll come back to Russ Meyer. We'll get there. Then we have Pumpkin Soup by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. It was Kiyoshi Kurosawa's first film. Kiyoshi Kurosawa is, I'm pretty sure, my favorite living filmmaker, if not, maybe tied with some others, but, or if not my absolute favorite. I'd never seen Pumpkin Soup before. I mean, it was only okay. I mean, it was like very much a first film. I mean, it made, this isn't going to be on your list, your top 3, right, Joe? Pumpkin Soup?
No, it's not on there. But it is, I mean, it's a fascinating sort of, I like how experimental it is. And it sort of shows that he was still playing around at that time. And it's amazing that the Japanese pink film industry was allowing him to do that. So
yeah, I mean, Morgan, have you seen it? No,
I haven't, but I have seen. He actually, I don't think it's not a feature length film, but I have seen his film both before it and after it because he has he has an hour-long film, Katagawa Pervert Wars.
Yes, I've not seen that. I've not seen that one either. Nice.
I've seen that one, and then I saw his Sweet Home.
Sweet Home, yeah.
Only sort of.
Right. Yeah. So is Kanagawa Pervert Wars worth watching, would you say?
I mean, it's definitely, Pinku. It's it's very slice of life young people in Japan though. The ambition is definitely to make an elevated erotic film. I mean it's definitely I'll say this. I didn't give it a heart on Letterboxd. I watched it, but I didn't, wasn't I got to tell everyone about how I watched this pervert.
Kanagawa Pervert Wars. You were at the grocery store recommending it.
But, I think this group, you guys would probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's quality there.
I despite him being my favorite filmmaker, I have failed to see everything that he's made. So there's a couple on the list still. Later one, I mean, he's made a bunch in the last couple of years that I haven't seen. And there's a couple sort of mid-period ones that I haven't seen yet. There's one called like daguerreotype. That's like, I just haven't gotten around to.
I keep almost putting that on because it looks really interesting. But I think the last of his I saw was Before We Vanish. And then I started, he's got like that 2-part sci-fi one that looked very mainstream. And I was like, I don't know. That's not really what I come to it for. And I haven't seen anything since then.
Yeah. He did this really interesting one. I want to look up the name really quick. That came out during the pandemic, and it was like a co-production between Japan and Kazakhstan or something. Uzbekistan. To the ends of the earth. Yeah. Did you see that one? It's really.
I did not, but it looked interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting and strange, and just sort of like I loved how it was just like it was literally made to celebrate this clearly very meaningful historic relationship between Uzbekistan and Japan that I had no idea about. I didn't really understand. The movie didn't teach me why they had that cultural connection, but it's a really interesting, arty film that's also quite funny, and he's just really he's a great filmmaker.
I do tend to gravitate to his more overtly genre stuff.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. I could talk about him for forever, but we should move on.
Yeah, the Kiyoshi
Cast. I want to mention that I watched his brand new one that's on Criterion Channel right now.
Yeah, I've started it, but I haven't finished it yet. So,
I really liked it. I recommend it. So,
I mean, just so one last thing about Consume, this idea of movies that are made under the rubric of like whether it be a porn or just sort of erotica that are then attempting to do something artier with the form, I think is an idea. Well, I know it's an idea that we will return to relatively soon. So just put a pin in that because we're coming back to it. Pumpkin Soup. Okay, Twisted Issues. Joe, can you explain what Twisted Issues is?
Sure. That was by a guy named Charles Pignon, who I guess was like a skater punk. I think that was the one from Gainesville, Florida, or somewhere in Florida. And it was shot on video movie. But, it's basically a horror movie that then kind of adds in, skater punk culture. But also there's this kind of self-referentiality to it where there are a lot of like televisions and cameras in the movie and stuff. So it's fascinating in its own little way.
Yeah. Okay. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Russ Meyer. Ferret Vampire, which is about a vampire car, and you would think, based simply on me saying it's about a vampire car, that it's going to be great. It was not great. I thought that was pretty disappointing at the end.
I want to give it another chance. Like I want to rewatch it and be like, did I miss something? But then if I didn't miss anything, I'll be frustrated.
Yes. Then we've got Bay of Blood by Mario Bava, which is I'm sure you've all seen many times. Then Ruby, which is by Curtis Wellington? Is that guy's
Curtis Harrington.
Yep. Yeah. I know, Morgan, you have something to say about that. Do you want to hop in?
I'll save it till we get into the deeper dive. That's because I don't have a top 3 from this for you.
All right.
Then I'm going to mention Cafe Flesh here, which is also by Steven Saadian, same guy who made Dr. Caligari. We'll come back to that one. Also sort of a neon-drenched erotic film with other things on its mind. And actually, to call it erotic is incorrect. It's, if anything, anti-erotic, but we'll get into that in a moment. Then we have The Cat, which is also by Lam Nai Choi, who made Seventh Curse too, right? It's another sort of really fun wackadoodle blend of genres. And then the last one is Lucio Fulci's Murder Rock, which is about like murders in a jazzercise community, and And I'd never seen it. I'd seen like their clips from this movie are super internet famous, at least in the part of the internet that I occupy. So I'd seen basically all the fun, ridiculous parts of it. I've never actually seen the movie. It turns out you don't really need to see the whole movie if you've seen all the fun, ridiculous parts.
It's still fun. Like if you just want to kill 90 minutes.
I mean,
Murder Rock.
Yes. Let me rephrase. It's it's like a fun, weird giallo, but it also like it isn't for like a Fulci fan. It's notably not bloody. Like if you're coming to a Fulci movie, you sort of expect gouged eyes and a certain amount of gore. It's pretty soft in its, which is fine. It's fun. I shouldn't rag on it for being in it.
I remember liking it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but
Yeah. Okay, so should we get into each of our top threes? Are we ready?
Yeah, let's just jump into it.
I know, Morgan, you don't have top three, so we'll put you in a circle and you can talk about Ruby and whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of filler for this. Brace yourselves.
Joe, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
So of the 25 or so movies we watched this year, only 2 of them were from the century, I noticed. Because we tend to watch a lot of old movies. And so
also garbage century. So
yeah, really. But every so often there is a gem, and that this time is The Greasy Strangler. 2016, directed by Jim Hosking, 93 minutes. He's a British guy, but it's a very LA sort of movie. And to give you a brief idea of what it's about, Sky Elabar plays Big Braden, and Michael St. Michaels plays Big Ronnie, who Braden is the son of Big Ronnie. And they are kind of in this strange competitive father-sibling relationship for Janet, played by Elizabeth Durazo, who I don't know. It's just a very funny movie. But essentially, there's a serial killer on the loose, leaving a trail of grease wherever they go. Could it be Big Braden, or could it be Big Ronnie? But either way, it all comes down to the fact that they're a couple of bullshit artists, you know. And it succeeds in being a relatively recent film that I feel is like a legit cult film. Because in the past 15 years or so, there are these movies made where they're clearly trying to become a cult film right from the beginning, which is sort of antithetical to how a cult is created around a movie. But this one is one of the only ones that I feel like succeeds in that. And it's just because the bizarre world is very genuine. The performances are great in their own, little way. The costume design is very distinctive.
It's very greasy.
Yeah, there's a lot of greasiness in it. They are very committed to that. And then, like at the end, it just gets even stranger. So
it's a very I would describe it as Tim and Eric adjacent in its the way that it, like its sense of humor, but then also the way that its sense of humor is not really funny, but more sort of off-putting and horrific. I mean, sometimes it's referred to as anti-comedy. I don't know if that really fits this movie, but it's if you're into Tim and Eric stuff, I think Greasy Strangler is probably for you. It's I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, just based on the title. I was like, I don't want to, which is weird because like normally I'm into like greasy. There's something about just putting in the title that was putting me off for a long time, but.
No, well, that's why it needs to attract you to it. When I see something greasy in the title, it's a must-see immediately.
But like notably, I love movies that had like Predator 2, which I've often described as like the sweatiest movie of all time because Bill Paxton sweats through not just his undershirt but also his suit coat. I think has pit stains, so it's it's a thing that I'm into. But yeah, I thought Greasy Strangler was great. I should point out that Sky, the actor Sky from Greasy Strangler, will appear in our upcoming art show with Captain Skinner. So you should see Greasy Strangler so that you can enjoy his appearance in our show. Now, Joe, were you going to pick a thing to double feature this movie with? Do you have
I am.
What would you pair it with?
Yeah, and the reason I kind of thought we should do that is because this one has such an obvious pairing that I've been wanting to put together for a while, and that is The Oily Maniac, which is the Shaw Brothers movie.
I have seen that one.
You have seen okay, because I have been meaning to watch it for a year or two, and I still haven't even seen it. But I just know it's going to be amazing, like with a title like that.
So wait, Morgan, so tell us about Oil Maniac then. Like, do you think does it sound like a good match for Greasy Strangler?
Well, I don't. My main remembrance of that one is that there's a lot more sexual assault than you expect from the period that it is, and the sort of like it doesn't look like it's going to go that hard when you see it because it just seems like this is going to be more of a sort of a novelty horror film with a melty dude.
Yep.
That's my main. But having not seen The Greasy Strangler, I don't know how that parallels. I assume there's a lot of him being naked and covered in grease and running around. That's my impression.
Yeah, or it's interesting because we had mentioned earlier how Cafe Flesh is anti-erotic, and I just realized the Greasy Strangler kind of is too. Or I mean, it kind of presents naked bodies in ways that we don't normally see in movies. Like very sort of elderly people and obese people and things like that. So, I think it's commendable sort of what they put on screen for that. And it just kind of adds another sort of visceral quality to the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do my first one, which is Seventh Curse, by I don't know how to say the director's name, Lam Nai Choi. He's also listed another name that's harder to pronounce, Lam Nai Choi. So I'm gonna read. I pulled the back of the box text, so I'm just gonna read it. Dr. Ewan is a world-famous adventurer whose exploits have found him playing everything from hostage negotiator to exploring the most offbeat corners of the globe. While in the jungles of Thailand, Dr. Ewan rescues a young woman from a bloodthirsty supernatural sect, the Worm Tribe, as they attempt to sacrifice her to their ancient evil deity. After a Worm Tribe elder forces the doctor to swallow a handful of bullets, Dr. Ewan becomes afflicted by the seven-blooded curse, which causes the bullets to burst from his body. Determined to find a cure before the seventh and final curse takes his life, Dr. Ewan returns to the jungle where he must defeat the Worm Tribe and other unexpected supernatural obstacles. An off-the-wall blending of action-adventure and insane supernatural horror. Lam Nai Choi's The Seventh Curse offers enough mind-boggling mayhem to satisfy even the most jaded film fans' appetite, from thrilling action sequences, plentiful practical creature effects, and all the over-the-top blood and violence perfected by Cat 3 Cinema. I love this movie. There's a whole deep well of, I just keep thinking the word is just bananas, like Hong Kong genre mashup cinema that happened in the 70s and 80s. And I don't know it that well, but every time I come into contact with it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is 100% my shit. Like, there's great, like, I just love it. The pace of it is insane. It begins sort of like a hostage negotiation film, but like, as in more of like an action mode than like a tense thriller mode. And then suddenly you're in the jungles of Thailand and there's a worm monster bursting out of somebody's chest. And then Morgan, I'm sure you've seen this movie, right?
I have seen this movie, not in a while. It's been a while, but I remember it being relentlessly awesome.
Then there's like a top murderous skeleton with glowing blue eyes that kind of does kung fu for a little bit before ripping a person's head off and drinking their blood. I mean, and then it just honestly kind of escalates from there. Also notable, the co-star is Chow Yun-fat, who is one of my favorite movie stars. I would watch him do just about anything. But in this one, he gets to do all kinds of fun stuff. So it's great. I don't know, Joe, do you have anything to add on that? Seventh Curse?
I mean, not too much else, but I'm wondering, that means either the cat is also in your top three, or you chose this over the cat. So
I for sure chose this over the cat. So the cat is like, I guess technically in the same film series as Seventh Curse. They're the same. Like, Dr. Ewan is the star of a series of novels, right? And then there was a number of films, I believe, made featuring Dr. Ewan. I don't think it's the same actor in both films. I should have looked. I don't think it is. And then the cat is like similar to Seventh Curse in that it just goes places you kind of don't expect it to. The cat features an alien. He's an alien cat, correct? And it Joe, why don't you tell us about the cat, then I'll tell you why I picked Seventh Curse over the cat.
Well, it's funny because we watched that just like last month or something. But if you like, I can't really even describe the plot. Yeah, so there's this alien cat that gets involved with these Earthlings.
Yep.
And then the cat, seems to need to get back home. I think it has similarities to the Cat from Outer Space, that Disney movie.
The old Disney movie. Yep.
But just far stranger than that. There are a lot of, great quick zoom ins to the cat that then quickly cut to an obvious cat puppet that's attacking. There's a great junkyard dog scene.
Yep.
And then that all kind of escalates to this wild, sort of rubbery monster climax. So
yeah, so Seventh Curse is just slightly more in my genre wheelhouse, and that it's a little bit more horror. I'm grew up as a big Indiana Jones fan. I had that I rewatched the opening of Seventh Curse this morning, and my thought in watching the beginning of Seventh Curse again was like, oh, this is what the Indiana Jones film franchise needs, is like a little bit more Seventh Curse in its DNA, even though clearly it's ripping from from Indiana Jones, but like we need to get back to the fighting skeletons and complete like genre bananas-ness. And like stuff with the cat is crazy, but I just prefer old temples and black magic and skeleton warriors and like worm cults. Like I would be hard pressed to imagine a film that didn't feature something called a worm cult that I wasn't destined to to love, right?
yeah, fair enough.
So I'm gonna follow your lead on the double feature. I would partner Seventh Curse with Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal for a whiplash of from a color bananas 89-minute genre mashup to one of the most famous black and white art films of all time. Although I will say a lot more humor in Seventh Seal than its reputation. So I think they would actually probably pair better than one might immediately think. So,
Okay.
Now, Morgan, I'm wondering if you want to take an opportunity to talk about Ruby or something. If there's another one on here you want to pull out.
Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and get this little side note tangent in here because it's relevant to what you're saying. How there's this connected, this very subtly connected cinematic universe. Yeah. So the reason I picked Ruby from your list was because I hadn't seen it. It's got Laurie Piper who I think of as from Twin Peaks, but who I always want to see. But notably, it's directed by Curtis Harrington, but it's written by George Edwards. And so I wanted to know if there were any Easter eggs in there that tied it in to their other collaborations. Mm-hmm. Because I thought this was miraculous. This is a boring story, probably, that everyone's like, yeah, okay, I guess that happens sometimes. But my mind was blown because I watched Curtis Harrington's The Killing Kind one night, maybe a year ago. And just at random, I don't know, just a horror movie I hadn't seen. I think I was trying to, I think I looked at my Letterboxd stats and I'd seen the least horror movies from 1973. So I was like, I should bolster my 1973 list. Let's just see what else happened that year. Why haven't I seen that year enough? So anyway, I watched The Killing Kind just at random. It's pretty good. It's like similarly, it's like kind of soapy. And, like a weirdly kitchen table drama for what is a horror movie. And I was like, it was good. Not great, but pretty good. The next night, I had been on a quest to find this one. I think it was because that Oz Perkins monkey movie was coming out. And I remembered seeing this trailer when I was a kid that was so terrifying of a cymbal monkey, like this really slow, ominous trailer of like a cymbal monkey just sing that. It's creeped me the fuck out as a kid. And it's not in Monkey Shines, but it turns out it is the trailer for Monkey Shines. Like they shot an original trailer for it. But in my quest to figure out what that footage was from, I watched George Edwards's The Attic, which also has a cymbal monkey on the cover, because I thought maybe that was it. And so I watched this the next night after I watched The Killing Kind, not realizing that they shared a writer. Right. And it turns out it's a sequel, like a stealth sequel. It's got the characters come back, the surviving characters from the other one. It's all of them like a few years later. They keep making reference to the other film. I thought I was losing my mind.
So
I was watching
this is The Killing Kind in the Attic.
The
right?
Attic. Yeah, which is like, let's see, The Killing Kind is 73 and The Attic is 80. And that one's not directed by Harrington. It's the writer George Edwards and this guy, Gary Graver.
Right.
But just the odds of two random old horror movies that I think were just uploaded to YouTube that I had no overlapping reason to watch, like seeing them, like the dawning on me as I'm watching, I'm like, wait, that's so funny. That's just like the movie I watched yesterday, that they're referring to this librarian character and they're like her abusive father that she had to deal with. And I was like, it completely blew my mind just that two random movies could be connected. And it made me wish that happened more often in my life. Just completely random. Just
wait, but was Ruby connected to them as well? No.
Well, disappointingly, Ruby was not connected.
Lame.
It was lame, but at least not that I could tell. Maybe deep in the cinematic universe they've created, there's something I didn't get. But Ruby seems to take place. It's more of it feels like it takes place like in the 50s or the early 60s.
That's the intention, yeah.
Yeah. So this is less of so maybe it's in the history of these people, and I just didn't see the connection. But that was my main thing. I just want to mention what a weird experience that was. So I watched Ruby because of that. Ruby was fine.
It's fine.
There's I thought it was really well shot. Often I was like, it's really pretty to look at. The Piper Laurie, like I said, always great. Did think there's that quote, and I don't know if George R.R. Martin stole it from somebody else, but I saw him say once that like the only thing Hollywood learned from Jaws is that people like movies about boats. And I love that line. I think about that all the time. And this Ruby sort of ends with a scene where you're like, I guess we're really just assuming that what people liked about The Exorcist was, a young teenage girl like being sweaty in bed and arching her back. And I was like, that's I don't think that's why people love that movie. But so it sort of felt, like it's a mess of influences and ideas, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But I thought the other two made for a more interesting pairing. So
yeah. Okay, Joe, what do you got?
Well, next, of all the Russ Meyer movies we watched, I think you know the one that I'm choosing. It's Super Vixens, 1975, 106 minutes. And so this year, or I guess it started last year, Severin started putting out, a bunch of Russ Meyer movies. I'm not sure if they're doing his entire catalog. I don't think they license all of them. But it's really exciting just because, he's quite a famous director in sort of the exploitation field. And he's always had, kind of massive control over the distribution of his own films. So after he passed away, there was this possibility that they might never be re-released. But Severin was able to, contact his estate and work something out, which is really exciting. And that explains why we've been going on this deep dive Meyer thing. But I'll explain the movie. We can talk more about him.
Yeah.
But it's basically about this goofy guy named Clint Ramsey, who goes through a movie being sexually intimidated by large-breasted women. He gets in a fight with his girlfriend, who I think is named Super Angel, which is broken up by this sleazy cop named Harry Sledge, played by Charles Napier. And Sledge turns out to be a villain for the ages. I love watching him.
I think that was a torrential performance from Charles Napier, just to say.
There we go. Yeah, now that I absolutely agree. And it's like you know it when you see it, that it's torrential. And the movie is very cartoonish. For those who might not know who Charles Napier is, you would definitely recognize him. He was in Silence of the Lambs, Rambo: First Blood Part 2, Austin Powers, all kinds of TV. And then he also showed up in Beyond the Valley of the Dolls as Baxter Wolf. Um, but Russ Meyer movies are great. The women tend to just constantly scream obscenities at the male characters and kind of um, you know, work them down in ways that you don't really see ever. Um, and so where some of his other movies fail, like Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens and whatnot, this one astoundingly succeeds. And it's very formulaic, but there's also this like progressive action that brings us to the very cartoonish conclusion. But I wanted to ask you, Phil, like, what about this one makes you feel like it succeeded where the others failed?
That's a great question. So I had been aware of Russ Meyer ever since, I love to reoccurring characters on the Etch Cast. I had been aware of Russ Meyer ever since I started listening to White Zombie, which was Rob Zombie's band, and they sampled a lot of clips from Russ Meyer films. So I became aware of Russ Meyer way, 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 way back. I had never seen a Russ Meyer film up until this year. So this was 2025. Every Russ Meyer film I've seen this year. And what makes this one successful is really hard to tell. It's sort of like, I think a combination of two things that don't immediately make sense. Its narrative is a little bit more straightforward. Like some of them are pretty like, experimental is the wrong word, but like just sort of like loose and
not well thought out. Like they don't really connect. It's all kind of like this crazy stuff happening.
Yeah. And there's no narrative drive to a lot of them, shall we say.
Yeah.
This one has a narrative drive in that, you have Charles Napier, the evil police officer, and you have our hero trying to flee, I guess, is what he's doing. But there's like a narrative drive there. But on the other hand, on the flip of that, its more cartoonish aspects, I just think are, maybe because they're tied to an actual narrative drive, they just worked better for me, at least. So I was like, it's a blast. It was a lot of fun where sometimes his movies are just sort of like, oh man, we're still doing this, huh? Like, it's like another large breasted woman, like bouncing on a dude on a bed or whatever. I've had enough of this. Like, let's move it along, Russ. Give me something else. I mean, which isn't to say like that each of the ones we've watched of his have something notably bizarre in it that I appreciate. Like, what's the one that starts with I'm not sure if it's actually supposed to be Hitler or if it's a Hitler impersonator. There
are a lot. He throws in a lot of his World War II experiences or fixations in a lot of them. Because he has that German actor, or just the actor who's always playing Germans. I'm not sure if he's really German.
Yeah.
But I think that was maybe Up. Was that?
Yeah, I think that was Up. Up, you mean? No, not Up. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think I would call myself a Russ Meyer fan at this point, but I would say I am a Russ Meyer appreciator, both into I love when you really, really encounter a filmmaker who was able to really do what he wanted to do. Like, you can tell that Russ Meyer's like, I'm just out here doing what I want to do. Like, this is, these are the actors I like. This is clearly man has a type. This is the type of woman I like to see on screen. This is what I like to see them doing. Like, these are the kinds of like weird ways that I want to combine those things to sort of make a quote unquote story. So it's cool. Like it's a weird thing to say, I guess, maybe, but like Russ Meyer sort of stands in my mind as like evidence of like film as art. If by that you mean art as the work of like a auteur sort of theory art, right? Where it's like, this is clearly the work of a man who has particular obsessions visually and narratively and editorially. I mean, I didn't realize that because he also cut his own movies too, right? That's all his own editing. Yeah. So there's a real level of control there that, again, you might watch these movies and be like, what the fuck is this? Like, but you kind of, for a cinema-minded person, it's kind of fascinating. I don't know, Morgan, have you ever seen a Russ Meyer film? You must have.
I have, yeah. I've seen Super Vixens. I've seen Up. Mm-hmm. I also have seen, I've seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, and I watched I'm looking at the list here, the Cherry, Harry, and Raquel.
I have not seen that one. What was that, late or early Russ Meyer?
It is. Let's have a look. It's 1969, so it's after Faster Pussycat, but before Super Vixens. I it's obviously been a while. My Russ Meyer year was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And so I watched those then. So I recall that one being really dedicated to exploring racial politics of the 60s, which is, I mean, you can imagine how that goes in a a hard softcore film.
I mean, that's also in Vixen. Like the first Vixen is also pretty interested in that, explicitly interested in it, which I also thought was pretty successful.
I mean, the politics of all of them, I think, is really fascinating. Like it sort of feels like a little bit like John Waters. They have less. I mean, it's more of a straight lens, I think you could say, but
I mean, explicitly straight lens.
But I think they sort of move in similar. It feels like a group of friends who are artists who are also, committed to this.
There's for sure there's a lineage of influence there. There must be. I don't know if Waters has ever talked about Meyer, but
I think he definitely has. Yeah,
isn't he on one of the discs? Didn't we watch?
Yeah, like people call him up to comment on Russ Meyer all the time. Yeah, but I think, or the interesting thing about Russ Meyer, looking back on him now, is that he. At the time, he was making these movies very much for himself that were just, basically about boobs, but in a very sort of elaborate kind of way. But ever since then, both queer and feminist, interpreters of film have kind of adopted some of his films and championed them. But the funny thing is, I'm not sure if he would necessarily have appreciated that. Like I remember in one, there's one famous line where, an interviewer was asking him about if his movies are feminist, and he said something like, "I've never seen a good-looking feminist," and kind of moved on. But then his movies are full of these very powerful women, and it makes sense that people would enjoy that in more of a progressive kind of way. And then, I was listening to Peaches Christ podcast recently, the drag queen from San Francisco. And, she is always talking about Russ Meyer and had done, different shows in the past with different stars from his films. So it's interesting how, regardless of whether Mr. Meyer ever wanted that or intended that, there are these other, cultures of people who are kind of appreciating his work in a different way than he may have imagined.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do my next one, which is Cafe Flesh, 1982, directed by Steven Saadian. I'm going to read the quick description. Truly one of the most delirious film experiences you can have. Cafe Flesh is a dystopian sci-fi offering from one of American cinema's true originals. The time, 5 years after nuclear apocalypse. The survivors, post-nuke thrill freaks looking for a kick. Able to exist, to sense, to feel everything, accepting pleasure. In a world destroyed, survivors break down to those who can and those who can't. 99% are sensual negatives, quote unquote. Call them Eros casualties, quote unquote. They want to make love, but the mere touch of another person makes them violently ill. The rest, the lucky 1%, are sensual positives, those whose libidos escaped unscathed. After the nuclear kiss, the positives remain to love, to perform, and the others can only watch, can only come to the Cafe Flesh. Cafe Flesh is a legendary film, as fresh and entertaining today as it was when it was first released in 1982. Its unique visual style, fabulous score, and provocative storyline combined to create a unique viewing experience. So, this movie is insane. I loved it. Just so you know, this one is not on my Letterboxd list because it is marked as a porno in my Letterboxd rules. You can switch your Letterboxd to allow you to rank, porno, which I have not done because it's not something that I will watch and rank. But Cafe Flesh is it's almost indescribable in that it all takes place, principally takes place inside the titular Cafe Flesh, which is this place where people in the post-apocalyptic future who can experience sexual pleasure, perform sex basically for people who can't enjoy the actual touch anymore. So they just sit and watch and the other people perform it. And the tableaus, the pornographic tableaus, are completely absurd and like these sort of overly designed, visually striking. Like one is like three men dressed as babies, like sort of strapped to the wall in like high chairs, and then there's like a mom who's like vacuuming, and then like the milkman shows up, but he's dressed as a rat, right? He's like a rat man. Um, and the plot of the movie concerns a couple. The man, is definitely like a sex negative or whatever they're called, and the woman in the relationship is probably not, but like sort of pretending to be, and it's sort of about her sexual awakening, basically. But the mood and the tone of the thing is just completely insane. Like it is one of those movies that it feels like you've like it just encompasses you in its own completely insane visual sense. Notably, it exists in two versions. There's the hardcore pornographic version of it, which was, I think, the original version of it. Stephen Saidi, I don't think didn't want really to make a porno. I think that was just the way that he got it funded. And the the porn parts in it, the hardcore porn parts in it, are so deeply unpleasant to watch. Like purposefully unerotic, like just awful to watch. So awful, in fact, as the story goes, that when the movie was put into porno theaters in the 80s, audiences who came to see it complained and were like, "This is awful. Like I can't get off to this. It sucks. Like I can't. I hate it so much." So they recut the movie. They cut those parts out and then released it as like a post Eraserhead, like midnight movie at art house theaters, where it did quite well, which completely makes sense because it is of that. Maybe it's not of a Eraserhead caliber, but it is of a caliber that type of audience would certainly appreciate it.
Which version did you watch?
We watched the full version, so that's how I can say with confidence that it is. And you can see where they spliced back in the porn. There's always like a little sort of like there's some frame or two missing. It's like, oh, now here's the part that like is just like so aggressively anti-sexy. But even that sort of plays into the thematic question that's like being asked. Like it's very much a movie about pornography in some sense. So it's
spectatorship and
it's
everything.
Great. I found this morning a random Reddit user commented, "This movie shows you everything you want to see in exactly the way you don't want to see it," which is like kind of. And they didn't give credit to the person who said it, which is the quote on Reddit. But they completely agree with that. And so, like, just another, I've got a couple of Cafe Flesh fun facts. So Saadian came from the world of, like, I think he worked at Penthouse, but he also came from the world of like VHS cover design. So he designed like very, very famous, in my mind at least, VHS covers. So he did like De Palma's Dress to Kill. He did Tobe Hooper's Funhouse. He did Carpenter's The Fog, like those really iconic sort of like, and the movie looks like that. Like it has that sort of like neon craziness to it. And then the other fun facts about this film are it was co-written by Jerry Stahl under a pseudonym. Jerry Stahl went on to write for Elf and then have a massive heroin addiction. And then the Ben Stiller movie Permanent Midnight is actually about Jerry Stahl. I don't know if anybody has seen it. It's like that late 90s film. And then he went on to write for CSI. He wrote some of the most popular CSI episodes of all time, Jerry Stahl. All of it from this crazy Cafe Flesh.
Wow.
So I would, as the ultimate troll, I would pair Cafe Flesh with another post-apocalyptic film about mankind being changed by the apocalypse, Pixar's WALL-E. An ultimate, the ultimate the ultimate heel turn from, I'm not sure which order to watch them, but that's what I would pair it with.
Wow.
Okay, we should jump into last one though because we're running short on time. We've been going super long.
All right.
Joe, what do you got?
I'll try to go quick. My favorite that we watched this year is Série Noire, which you probably could have guessed.
So I'm going to say this is also my top pick, so we can discuss we can discuss together. Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it because I watched it alone. Was like I need to share this with people because it's so good. But the real discovery of it is Patrick Dwyer, who is the main actor, who plays Frank Poupard, and he is a traveling door-to-door salesman who kind of gets seduced by this teenage girl named Mona, played by Marie Trintignant, who is, of course, the daughter of Jean-Louis Trintignant. If you don't know him, I would consider him to be like the James Spader of 60s and 70s French cinema. Um, so anyway, so getting back to Mona, in a way, she's just kind of this like blank slate who doesn't really have many lines. So she doesn't really seduce him. She's just kind of this person for Dwyer to play off of, and it kind of becomes this Crime and Punishment style plot where, he begins plotting to kill Mona's aunt in order to steal a large sum of money and escape with her. And then some, different twists occur along the way with Frank's wife and his friend Tiki Dace, which is such a fun name that they constantly say. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's based on a Jim Thompson novel, which actually I read that just a few weeks ago, so I was curious. It's called A Hell of a Woman, and the movie is surprisingly very faithful to it, even down to like near the end. There's a scene where he's smoking in the bathroom, and then he puts the cigarette out and cleans the sink, and then lights up another cigarette, and that's all in the book, which I was very amazed by.
Interesting.
But there's one scene that is notably not in the book, which is when he is at that bar and he kind of heckles the biker gang, and then this intimidating biker with a swastika tattooed on his hand like drinks his beer and then aggressively kisses him on the mouth. And the reason that's such a great scene is because then it just kind of like cuts away to the next thing, and it did not have to be in there. So I wonder like why they included that, other than it being fantastic.
Is the scene with out in the field with the car, is that in the book too?
No, that's sort of, that seems sort of more like a framing device, right?
Right.
It's like a space that he kind of goes back to. So that's not really there, but like the way the plot progresses and, the relationship he has with his boss and his wife and friend is very similar.
Morgan, have you seen this movie?
I have not. No,
Okay.
I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah. So you have to see it. You really have to see it because Patrick Dwyer. So we've been talking a lot about torrential performances, feral performances. Patrick Dwyer specifically introduced a new desired adjective in performances, which is cyclonic. Patrick Dwyer is full-on cyclonic in this film. It is a captivating, absolutely amazing performance. He's so fucking good in it. After seeing it, I was like, oh, that guy. Like, we need to start seeing more movies with Patrick Dwyer. He died in 1982, so he doesn't have quite as much of a curriculum vitae as Depardieu. But the ones we watched with it have been great. We also watched this movie Going Places, which I was maybe going to put on my list, which is Depardieu and Dwyer together in like a deeply uncomfortable sex comedy, quote unquote. It thinks it's a comedy, but it's definitely not really a comedy. But Tir Noir is the one to watch. I mean, he's just incredible. I asked about the scene with the car in the field because that's the one where he just starts banging his head against the hood of the car really incredibly aggressively. He's an actor I was not aware of at all, and then immediately was like, oh, this guy had something. He was really incredible. And I just hopefully people listening to this will come away with recommendations, but definitely find Tir Noir. Morgan specifically, you should see it. I'm curious though, Joe, what did you pair it with?
So after watching this movie, I have watched 5 Patrick Dwyer movies now. But it's like, for the most part, he was in kind of light, ridiculous comedies. And I haven't gotten to a lot of the ones, in the early 80s, right before he died, which I think might be a bit more serious.
Because it's from 79, Tir Noir, it's later, right?
I'm not sure. I have the box right here, but there's a lot going on this box. So I think it might be 76.
Yeah, Letterboxd has it 79, but that's not necessarily 100% true.
Maybe it is. That could be true too. But So I watched this one also by Bertrand Blier, who did Going Places, called Get Out Your Handkerchiefs. And that's the one that I would do a double feature with Série Noire. It also stars Depardieu. I like it more than Going Places just because it's even weirder, I think. It starts with Depardieu in a restaurant with his girlfriend. She's very upset. Because it just isn't a good boyfriend to her. He can't, please her sexually. And so it's not a progressive movie at all, but it has this like polyamory plot where he's like, oh, well, I need to find a man who can please you and we can work things out. And then he looks around the restaurant and is like, how about that guy? And he points at Patrick Dwyer, of course, who is just like a man at another table. And then hijinks ensue from there. And then there's like a twist halfway through that I don't want to reveal.
Yeah, you were telling me about this. I need to see this movie, so
yeah. If you read the IMDb or Letterboxd descriptions, it will reveal the twist within like the one sentence, tagline. So it's kind of hard to avoid, but I would say, people should just throw on Get Out Your Handkerchiefs and go along for the ride.
Sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
I was just saying, added to the list, covered the screen, so I didn't see the one sentence spoiler. Added to the watch list.
Yeah.
I was thinking just so much about Dwyer's performance in torrential and cyclonic performances that I paired this with Star 80, which is a movie that Bob Fosse made, the last movie he made before he died. It stars Eric Roberts, who has come up on this podcast a number of times. I'm going to keep playing the hits. Yeah. It's Eric Roberts as I'm not going to blank on the name of the character he's playing, but it's basically the true story of the murder of a woman named Dorothy Stratton, right? Dorothy,
I think that's
Stratton.
it. Yeah,
who was a model and actress in a relationship with the director Peter Bogdanovich, and then was killed horribly by her abusive boyfriend, played by Eric Roberts. And Eric Roberts' performance in Star 80, it's sort of like Dwyer. You're like, oh, this guy can get. I don't know if it's cyclonic. I think that was more torrential. And, there's a fine line between them. Yeah, but I think
I would agree.
Yeah, in Star 80. But it's the kind of performance. It is akin to like De Niro in Taxi Driver, in that he's playing like just a truly unsettling individual that has this awful violence hidden in him, and it's a great performance from Eric Roberts. So I would put Série Noire and Star 80 for if you want to just stand in a hurricane that has cyclones spinning around it for an evening. Now that concludes this examination of our year of watching. It's been great. I look forward to continuing the tradition. Morgan, you should come down again so you can join us for
I would love to.
Yeah,
it's always a super fun time. So real quickly, I'm going to make us do what lurks in our queue, which is this thing we always do at the end of every podcast. I don't have anything this week, but Joe, I'm going to actually just put you on the spot and say, what are we going to watch? What lurks in our queue? What's our next double feature? What do you have on tap?
That's a great question. I have like a stack of movies over here. Let me look really quick. How about Morgan? How about you go first?
Morgan, what's in your queue?
Look, I was watching like some old, a decade and a half old British show with my wife, and they brought up the whole Janet Jackson Nipplegate thing that I don't think anyone even thinks about or remembers anymore. But it reminded me about it, and I was like, where are we at with that now? Where we're at? So I watched 4 hours of the Lifetime Janet Jackson self-produced biopic. And to see if there was any new information, and they're still sticking with it was an accident story, but I think enough people involved in the costume design have since come out, and we can see the footage in HD now. They're just lying. It's just not true. It was obviously on purpose.
What an apropos what lurks in your queue for a podcast where we've been discussing Russ Meyer. You really you brought it back to to breast.
I'm trying to staying on topic.
Nice. All right, Joe, what do you got?
So there's one movie that also harkens back to what we were talking about that I'm gonna make you watch next time. It's a short, so it can start off before a feature or two features. Because I was listening to a podcast episode recently that somebody's watching podcast where they were talking about James Spader. So I was looking through his filmography, and he did a short in the late 80s called Greasy Lake. And it's about half an hour long, has Eric Stoltz in it as well. And there's kind of a bad copy of it on YouTube that we're going to have to get through just because it sounds amazing. Spader, Greasy Lake. What more do you need?
Greasy right in the name.
Greasy. You got things have to stay greasy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that concludes our episode. I want to say thank you as always to Morgan for joining us. Thank you, Joe, for your first and hopefully not last appearance on the Etch Cast. Please go subscribe to Joe's Substack. It is called The Left Hand Path. He does writing on all kinds of film. He does a great job of linking thematics in films and writing really great essays on film. So please go subscribe. His writing is great. He's a smart guy. Has great taste. And of course, episodes of the Etch series First Word on Horror are now on our YouTube channel. So please go subscribe there. Thank you to all our Substack subscribers. Thank you to all our listeners. Thank you, Lacey, for your production work on the podcast. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully everybody listening goes and watches some weird movies and has a great time thinking about them. Because it's the best.
If you've made it this far, welcome to the shadows. Keep the stories alive by following us on social media channels at Etch Film. Want even more chaos and behind-the-scenes strangeness? Subscribe to our Substack at etchstudio.substack.com. A special thanks to our Substack subscribers. Your support doesn't just keep the lights on, it fuels this podcast and every oddball project we conjure. You're the reason we keep telling stories that shouldn't exist, but somehow do. From all of us at Etch, thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay weird, and we'll see you in the dark.